or diagrams I've not seen yet, and an extent of possible contamination that extends essentially to the water line.
I am a member of the Citizens for Clean Wausau.
We should look at historical imagery of that park area, of the residential area south of the park, and numerous groups. These are chemical waste disposal and waste to storage groups. They would not accept that waste. So for some reason, it was thought we will use the former cold storage building along the western edge of Riverside Park to store waste with dioxin in it. And that was the reason many of those groups would not take it.
It certainly seems a red flag was raised for more analysis, to wit, more testing.
Past city councils and the DNR have not acted as wisely as they should have.
I would ask that you use your power as citizen representatives to recommend that further soil testing in Riverside Park be done.
And it is a very, very big agenda tonight. I know we have a number of people registered, and usually in the past I'll let it go over a little 3 minutes. Tonight I cannot, so I apologize to you in advance.
I'm a member of Citizens for Clean Wausau, and we asked very early on to put our subject on the agenda, and it was rejected. And I think we have major concerns about the pollution that's going on in 3M.
Good evening, and Mr. Mayor, Lou's just going to pass that out as we had discussed in the email string. Good evening, my name is Tom Killian. I live at 133 East Thomas Street. I'm a volunteer member of Citizens for a Clean Wausau, and we have a letter tonight that was written to the group in care of myself by prominent Harvard-trained toxicologist Stephen Lester. We're going to enter that into the record, please. November 2nd, 2018. Dear Mr. Killian, at your request, I have reviewed the State of Wisconsin Department of Health Services letter report. The Department of Health Services concluded in this letter report that there is no apparent health hazard for people using the Riverside Park and residents living in the Thomas Street neighborhood due to dioxin soil contamination. I could not disagree more with this conclusion. Second page.
Name and address, please, for the record.
Carrie Killian, 133 East Thomas Street, Wausau. My reasons are described below. 1, First and most importantly, the risk calculations and analysis conducted by the Wisconsin DHS failed to consider the cancer risk posed by exposure to dioxins. It is completely mystifying to me how the state DHS could assess and evaluate the public health risks posed by dioxin levels in soil without including the potential cancer risk. This is important because dioxin is generally considered the most potent man-made carcinogen ever tested.
Ms. Joyce Lidke?
Thank you. The U.S. EPA uses the cancer risk posed by exposure to dioxin as the basis for setting its regional screening level for all cancer-causing chemicals, including dioxin. For consistency, the highest level of dioxin detected should have been used in both calculations. That was not done. It is standard risk assessment practice to use a worst-case scenario in order to compensate for the many uncertainties inherent in the risk assessment calculations. Thank you.
Judith Miller, 903 Kickbush Street, Wausau. I continue Mr. Lester's letter. There has been limited soil sampling for dioxin in the neighborhood. There have been 4 separate sampling efforts in this neighborhood. Overall, 5 out of 16, or 31%, of the samples exceed the dioxin concentrations used as a cleanup level for the Escambia Superfund site in Pensacola, Florida. Superfund sites represent some of the nation's most contaminated land, and no residential area should be built on soil containing more dioxin than a federal Superfund site, especially for such a toxic chemical as dioxin.
Jerry Buer, I reside at 503 3rd Street, Wausau. Continuing the report, the 2017 samples collected for the city of Wausau were taken from 6 locations in the Thomas Street construction limits. Unfortunately, these samples were analyzed using non-conventional analytical procedures and cannot be compared to the results of the other sample groups. While different scientists can disagree about what numbers mean, there can be no doubt that the concentrations of dioxin found in the soil raise a red flag of concern and require further action and evaluation.
If you could list your address real quickly,
Yes.
please. Thank you.
Rita Pockel, 1310 Maple Hill Road, Wausau. In summary and conclusion, the risk calculations and analysis conducted by the Wisconsin DHS is inadequate and incomplete. Once sufficient tests have been conducted, the risk posed to the residents who live in this community can be evaluated. It is inappropriate to evaluate the public health risk using the limited sampling data that is currently available and to evaluate only the non-cancer risks when the primary toxic effect posed by exposure to dioxin is the risk of developing cancer. I hope these comments are helpful. Feel free to contact me if you have any questions or need any additional information. Sincerely, Stephen Lester, Science Director. And that being said, I want you, the City Council members, to know that we appreciate the tough job that you have. It is not easy. And many times we citizens don't always show our gratitude for the many hours that you put in. But, and here it comes, for years previous city councils have shoved this pollution problem under the rug. They have sold the city's soul to corporate interests and money. And District 3 council member, you are a product of Wausau and live very near this mess. Are you going to stand with your constituents along Thomas Street and adjacent to it? You are their direct representative. Please step up.
if the city government is not protecting homes and it's not protecting health, then exactly what and who is this government protecting? So we need to send that message. And yes, government's role is not to heed corporate power and influence while dismissing citizens' voices.